All right, what is going on, guys? This is Brian from Quantum Motorworks. I'm going to go ahead and do another little video today. Let's go ahead and get set up for the live stream. All right, cool. Go ahead and get this comment box going. All right. All right, cool. So basically the purpose of this video is to install some frame sliders. It's pretty easy, should be a quick installation, as long as we don't run into any issues with the alignment of the frame sliders there. But should be like, probably like a 15-20 minute job tops if everything works out. So I was able to find the service manual online, and like any other sport bike, there is a tightening sequence for when you remove and install an engine. So if this isn't done right, or if I don't feel like it's right, it's going to turn in from, probably turn in from a 15-minute job to probably an hour job, because we're definitely going to have to loosen up the engine in order to do this correctly. But I hope that's not the case. I have seen, like, the most recent one that I've seen usually where people end up stripping out the threads inside of the engine here. But worst case is you can actually break the frame. I think this is a steel frame here. Steel, right? Yeah, so this is a steel frame. But on aluminum frames, it's a little bit more critical. I've actually seen on a brand new 23, 24 Yamaha XSR 900 or XRS 900, where the customer put his own frame sliders in on a brand new bike with less than like 100 miles, and it literally sheared the frame. This gas tank is a little bit lower, so it kind of covers the steering neck here. But on his, it completely broke it where the frame attached to the engine. So this is a very critical job. It has to be done right. It is, just a simple take the bolt out, put the frame slider with the new bolt in, but there is a certain way to do it so you don't damage. So it looks like the YouTube kind of glitched out there for a second, but yeah, I just want to show you guys the bike here. It's pretty much a brand new bike. It only has 78 miles on it. Less than 100 miles here, so definitely don't want to mess anything up. So let's go ahead and take a look at our frame sliders here. Let's see what we got. Hopefully the YouTube doesn't glitch out again. But doing the phone mount here so I can be a little hands-free. Let's see what we got here. Dropship Power Sport Superstore from Cedar, Texas. Nice. Oh, here we go. It's Shogun Motorsports. I think I used to have those on my Gixxers before the first time I crashed. Let's take a look. So Shogun Motorsports, manufactured in the USA. Pretty good shit. Yeah, these are Delarin sliding pucks here. These are pretty much the same ones. Mine's were like, I think, shorties, a little bit shorter. And these right here are great. They're made out of plastic, not metal, so when you actually take an impact, they'll deform a little bit, and that absorbs the impact so you don't break your frame or, do some damage. And these right here, let me see out. Have a tape measure. We got a rule right here, though. Let's see how many. So it looks like the puck main surface is just under 3 inches, like 2 3/4, or yeah, about 2 3/4. Overall length is about just under 5 inches, or about 4 3/4. And let's see, looks like they're about identical in height. So that's pretty cool. Let's see, hardware here comes with some big bolts. These look like grade 8, 10 at least. Let's see, 12.9. So 12.9 bolts, very good. And looks like we forgot to connect the headphones here. I just reconnected the headphones. All right, cool. So should be a pretty straightforward operation. Not going to need too many tools to do this. To remove the frame sliders is going to use a 17 millimeter socket here. And then I have it on a breaker bar just to make things a little easier. And then you're also going to want some anti-seize. I like to put anti-seize on the bolt threads. Not only will it help with installation, but also, you know, if these aren't taken out in a long time and they sit there, the threads inside the engine, it's an aluminum block. These are steel threads, even though that they're plated. It's, you know, dissimilar metal. So if water gets in there, it's going to create a little bit of corrosion, and sometimes they'll pull the threads. If for whatever reason we need to replace them in the future or remove the engine, that'll kind of help with taking them out. The other thing too is if, say, the bike is crashed and say these bolts get a little bent here or a little jagged, it does happen on like a severe impact. Having a little bit of anti-seize on the threads will help assist in removing this bolt here without pulling out the threads. So definitely recommend a little bit of anti-seize. It's not like you're going to want to put Loctite. If these bolts are properly torqued down, they're not going to come out. And the torque spec is 55 foot-pounds or 75 newton meters is the correct torque spec for the 23 through 24 model. I didn't look it up in the other service manuals, but I would imagine that most of these MT-07s, the torque spec here on the engine mounting bolts is going to be the same. So let's see here. The other thing that I have, you're going to need a scissor stand for some type of lift. And that's basically, this is going to be to support the engine here. Because basically when you take out these bolts, the engine is going to want to drop forward. Even though we have engine mounting bolts here, in the service manual, there is a tightening sequence to doing this correctly. So we want to go ahead and support the engine so it doesn't move. And we're going to do that using the scissor stand here. And then I'll even go an extra step. I'll use this aluminum block here. This kind of just gives a little bit of a softer surface, and also allows a little bit of like sliding or wiggle room. And then it's also pretty nice flat surface here on the bottom of the oil pan. So we'll go ahead and be going up against the oil pan. And we're basically just going to put a little bit of pressure, just kind of seed the engine, you know, and then try to pull those bolts out. So let me see if I can actually do this right here. All right, hold on, checking the angle. Got to use my other phone. A little bit of lag. So let's see here. We'll just go a little like that. What's that do? Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and get this engine scissor stand underneath the engine. Let's see, we may not have enough room to actually get this block underneath. Nope. So we can't use a block. The next best step is to just place basically a rag underneath of it. This will give enough cushion to prevent damage. Unless we're going to hit that exhaust. Let's see here. Yeah, so we do need to shim it up just a little bit. And let's see here. Should have a wooden block. Okay. So you don't really need to put too much pressure. Just enough. Like you want to basically watch to see like right before the chain starts to move almost, or you're loading the suspension. Because what happens is if you put too much pressure, it'll actually, you know, either way, If it's drooping or being pushed up, it's going to put pressure on the threads, and that's what we're trying to avoid here. So you just want to find the sweet spot of where you have a little bit of tension on the engine here, so it doesn't want to drop forward. And let's see. So we're barely touching the muffler, which is fine. Most of the weight's going to be directed onto that oil pan there. And then we'll go ahead and take our 17 millimeter. And wow, that came out, that was super easy right there. And it feels like the bolt's coming out. It's pretty simple. Let's go ahead and do the left hand or the right hand side. Oh yeah, these are fairly, these are like, I mean, they had a little bit of torque, almost doesn't feel like 55 foot-pounds, but that's pretty, it's pretty nice. Can't complain. Let's see. Right. So there's like no resistance on this bolt. I'm threading it. So this is, we're going to leave it right there. And then I'll go ahead and take a magnetic hand, pull that bolt. There should be a washer attached to it. Go ahead and take that off. Then, I don't know if you guys can see. Pretty much, you can see like how lined up it is. It came out really nice. Oh, let me see if I can. So you can tell that that bolt right there is dead center from the factory. So I guarantee if I probably didn't have the stand underneath of it, the engine would droop just so much, even though it's supported here. And, you know, there's a possibility. These are fine threads. They're not coarse, so they could easily get damaged. Okay. Okay, next thing we'll do, take a little bit of compressed air. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of rinse off the bike. It was dusty. It's so hot today, I'm pretty sure whatever water's in there is going to evaporate anyways. So if we look at our sliders here, it looks like they're both identical, as well as the length of the bolts. So it doesn't matter from what I can see. If you one end or the other, they're pretty much the same. right, and then we're just going to take our anti-seize and just go ahead and apply just a little general amount to the threads there. It'll kind of work its way. I'm just going to do it on the tip, and then, you know, as it threads in, it'll kind of smear its way in there like it needs to. But we'll go ahead and drop this one first. It's also, we're going to be going from a hex head to a to like an Allen. So let's see here. It looks like it's going to be a 10 millimeter. Yep, it looks like it's going to be a 10 millimeter. Let's see. Okay. So go ahead and just drop that bolt in. Let's go a little, just back up, just a, yeah, like that. Just leave it a little loose. We're gonna go ahead and put the other side in first. Let me go grab my torque wrench, just because I'm doing a conversion. I have the 1/2 inch out, but we're gonna go ahead and use my 3/8. So give me a second here. All right, got the 3/8 snap-on torque wrench. Let me put the batteries in. Get this thing dialed in here. So we are going to torque it to We're going to torque it to 75 Newton meters, which is going to be 55 foot-pounds. Okay. Let's go ahead and do this side. So pretty straightforward, same operation. We already got one side loose, so we can go ahead and do the other side now. And let's go ahead and see how loose this is. Should have done it by hand. Yeah, so this one right here, pretty much loose, should come out by hand. Make sure that you're removing the washer with it. It's not just floating around there. Just go ahead and blow out. Okay. And then another thing I recommend is the puck itself. They kind of have a little bit of aileron shavings in there. The inside of the puck's just a little dirty from the manufacturing process. I would recommend just go ahead and give it a little blow. All right, and then same thing with the other bolt here. We're just going to go ahead and put a little bit of anti-seize on the threads to prevent galling, and corrosion. That's about it. Just like a good little section there, and that'll kind of work its way on. Okay. All right, make sure that your new bolt here has its washer, and we're going to go ahead and drop this bad boy in like such. It's going. Okay, a little snug on that side. Come over to the other side, kind of snug that one up a little bit. And then let me see here. So 75 newton meters. I'm hitting about 64. It feels like it's pretty tight right there. Yeah, I'm going to go with 63. Sometimes with these aftermarket pucks, or when you're installing stuff, you won't be able to achieve the full torque. I've noticed that. And if you try to keep going, you'll probably strip it out. So I'm going to torque the other side, and then we'll see how that side does. And then maybe we can come back and see if we can get the extra 10 newton meters. It may or may not be super critical. I've never had an engine mount come loose before. It's very rare. Oh, hey, just looked at the phone right now. Oh, whoops. Let's see here. What's the chat saying? Yeah, it's 2024 FC7. What is that? Gammy Gams and UAE Desert Sports. And what are you saying? You want to hear the exhaust? Yeah, we can go ahead and fire this thing up. What is it? What's he doing? Oil change? Or no, I'm installing frame sliders. Doing a simple frame slider install. I feel like I'm going to strip these fuckers. They're 74. I just want to hear the beep. Oh, there we go. Fuck it. We're going to go to the other side and do the other side too. I want to hear the beep. There we go, motherfucker. All right, cool. Well, that was easy. Go ahead and just lower that like that. Huh. All right, cool. Well, that's all I need to do to this. I guess the chat wants to hear it be fired up, right? Let's see. Let me get a little bit of air in here so we don't give ourselves carbon monoxide poisoning. All right, cool. Let's fire this thing up. Yep, 78 miles. So you want to make sure, just like a quick little check before we fire up the bike. You always want to double check the oil level. This one right here looks like it's just a little overfilled. See if I lean the bike over, does it change? Yeah, there it is. So bike's fine. Engine oil level's fine. No leaks. Everything should be set from the factory here. Let's go ahead and do this too. Let's take a red marking pen. There we go. Marked at the top. Let's go ahead and do this side too while we're at it. All right, cool. Yeah, that's checking the engine oil there, engine oil level. And then to check the coolant level, I think there's, yeah, right here. I really can't see it. Let's get a flashlight. So check the coolant level. Usually stick a light behind, and you can see the coolant levels right there. And there should be indicator marks. Looks like that rib on the top is high, and then you can see that rib right there is low. And you want it right about just in the middle. As the bike gets hot and cold, it'll kind of fluctuate. You know, as it gets hot, it may rise. You know, when it gets cold, it may lower as the fluid expands. But it's pretty much it. You know, check your tire pressure. Obviously, want to make sure your brakes work. We went ahead and installed some ASV levers on here too. These are pretty nice, so when you drop your bike or crash, they don't break off. Went ahead, did the front brake and the clutch lever there. You want to make sure you have a little bit of play. Just like that. All right, let's fire this thing up. Ooh, creepy. Well, it hasn't been seen for a while. Let's see. Oh, there it goes. Yeah. Pretty cool bike. It's really quiet. Stock exhaust. Can't really hear it too much. It's a pretty cool bike, you know. It's not like a full race bike, but these are really fun to scoot around on. Maybe we'll go do a quick test drive on it. I don't know if I can maybe stick my cell phone mount right there, or like on the grip or something. We'll see. Go do a little quick test ride on this bad boy. Make sure that it doesn't fall apart. Yeah, this thing is super quiet. Oh, look at all that water. Been sitting for a while. You gotta make sure you fire these things up every now and then. But yeah, another thing to check too is you want to make sure your chain like to come right to the back side of it, and it should just barely touch that
grip right there. This one right here is perfect. So you can also see right there, tire pressure should be about 33 psi in the front and about 36 psi in the rear. It's another thing you want to check. Obviously, make sure the brakes are working. Make sure your lights are working. Same thing with the front brake lever. Make sure your lights are working, high beams. Another thing you want to check is the side stand safety switch here. Should kill the ignition, and you shouldn't be able to turn on the bike. Nope, can't turn it on even with the clutch pulled in. But now should turn on. Neutral light, gear indicator switch is working, so that's all good. That's pretty much your basic check right there. You can also check the suspension. You want to make sure the suspension is good, no leaks. Obviously, a brand new bike, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, those are kind of like the basic checks on the MT-07. There's not too much going on here. It's a little bi-cylinder bike, and yeah, super quiet, super quiet. All right, guys, thanks for watching. We're going to go ahead and move on to something else. We'll see if we'll do a test ride later on. What is it here? You can average 25 on a road bike and take you. Wait, hold on. I got to catch these comments. You can average 25 kilomiles an hour on a road bike and take a 45-degree bank corner at 30. Would you be a good candidate for a motorcycle? I mean, taking corners and stuff like that, it's not I mean, it depends. If we're on track or something like that, usually I'm not really too concerned about how I bank angle on a motorcycle when I'm riding on the streets. Usually watching out for drunk motherfuckers, people that are not paying attention or distracted on their cell phones. That's typically what, how alert you can be and how comfortable you are on this motorcycle, how aware and attention to detail you are. That's what's going to make you a good candidate for a rider. And that's depending on where you're at too. You're using kilomiles per hour, so I'm assuming you're, probably from Europe or something like that. I'm from California. We have really shitty drivers out here in LA, San Bernardino. So this is kind of, riding a motorcycle out here is kind of a death sentence in a way. I've been down a shitload of times myself. I've been wrecked. So if you can take a corner at 45 degrees, yeah, sure, why not? But maybe that's going to be something for a track. Having a mindset like that, or depending on where you're at. But MT-07 isn't too, isn't too much of a bike. It is a 700cc, obviously, but it's not going to have as much power as like an R6 or this is kind of MT-07 is kind of like the new R7. Actually, I want to say they almost have the same engines if I'm not mistaken. And yeah. Yeah, MT-07 is definitely a great bike. I don't think, did they make an MT-09 still, or is it MT-10? I forget. Or is it the MT-10's discontinued MT-09? That one, whatever the next size up from this one, I think it's the MT-09. That one's fun ride, especially if it's has a tune and an exhaust on it. It's fucking rips. Not quite still like a like a Gixxer, an R6, or a CBR 600RR model. It's definitely not going to have the same power as a 4-cylinder inline 4, but they're super peppy and fun to ride. And when you throw an exhaust, they're definitely really fun to ride on the street. It's kind of like a street fighter almost. But yeah, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I got to go to perfect perfume. Yep. All right, guys. So yeah, thanks for watching, and